Salute BookTube, welcome back to my channel. We're here on the first day, or actually yesterday was the first day of summer. I've been seeing a lot of booktubers from the UK speaking about the heat wave, and also in the news that the UK is facing a heat wave. I've also seen on the news that the US is under, or North America is under a blanket of a heat wave as well. Me here in the heart of the Middle East in the United Arab Emirates is very much a desert country. Summer is very much here. We're talking heat you don't even want to know about. But since it's been really hot and really difficult to do anything on the daytime here on the weekend, I've been sitting right over there reading mostly. Just enjoying books and reading. So I've been doing that. Yeah, just trying to escape the heat. Of course, when I say summer, this is the northern hemisphere. I saw a video on BookTube, I think Mark is his name, from Book Ramble, a channel I subscribe to. He lives in New Zealand, and he made a video of his town in New Zealand, and he was speaking about it being a beautiful autumn day. So in the southern hemisphere, they're preparing for winter, but here in the northern hemisphere and in the Middle East, especially the desert heat of the Middle East, it's very much summer. It's also a very hot geopolitical situation as well. Just yesterday, the United States under President Donald Trump bombed Iran, bombed a couple of their nuclear facilities, and got America involved in the tit-for-tat conflict between the Islamic Republic of Iran and Israel. And just America can't get its hands off the Middle East. They bombed Iraq, they bombed Libya. The Israelis bombed Lebanon, they bombed Gaza, they still are. Syria was bombed. There's nowhere left for them to bomb, really, but it's very, very sad news coming out of the Middle East, very concerning news. I don't know what the response is going to be, what happens next, but again, more reason for me to just sit on that chair over there, right there, and read and just get away from the world and the world's problems. So I've been reading. If you've seen some of my last videos, I've been trying to participate in as many BookTube events as possible. There were two events which I combined. One of the events was June on the Range, and there was another event called Summer of Steinbeck. And I thought, instead of reading two books, I'll read one that covers both events, and that was this, which I'm still reading. I haven't finished it. It's really, really small, so I'll finish it quickly. It's John Steinbeck's The Red Pony. I've been reading this, just started it, but just reading the first few pages of Steinbeck reminded me of Steinbeck and his prose. I haven't read too much Steinbeck. I've read, I read in school, I read Of Mice and Men. Steinbeck's books, especially his novellas, are really small, so they're very handy to teach younger students, high school, middle school, and high school students, because it's not intimidatingly large. So he's popular in schools, grade schools. So I read Mice of Men, but that was a long time ago, my school days, which is ancient times. As far as I'm concerned now, but so I've read Of Mice and Men. The other book I read during, we can say, high school. I read the first time, I didn't think much of it, but I went back to it in my adult years, and it's really had a big impact on me, and this is the video I wanted to talk about today. I wanted to talk about this book by John Steinbeck. This is The Pearl. Another novella, not very big, but I think, at least for me, where I'm based, I find it a very, very fascinating book. One of my favorite books, actually. fiction books, actually, because if you've seen some of my old videos, if you look at the majority of my books, I'm mostly a non-fiction reader, but this is one of the fiction books that really stayed with me, The Pearl. And I got reminded of it because I'm reading this, the Red Pony, just reminded me of Steinbeck's prose. And because it's Summer of Steinbeck, I thought I would just talk a little bit about The Pearl and why it's important to me. Again, the prose from the Red Pony reminded me of The Pearl, and just John Steinbeck's writing, his style of writing, a lot of nature. Steinbeck's very good at describing nature in his works. It's true in this, and it's also true in the Red Pony, and probably in his other books, one of which is called The Grapes of Wrath. It actually has a term of vegetation in the title. So that book, The Red Pony, reminded me of The Pearl, and I don't know when there'll ever be another Summer of Steinbeck, or when BookTube will be talking about Steinbeck in this detail in the future, so I thought I'd make this video now and just talk about The Pearl and why it's important to me. This isn't the only copy I have. I've got another copy of The Pearl, this one here, also a penguin. This one is much more, this is a drawing. This one is actually a photo. I think this is from a movie. I think this book, when you read it, it reads almost like a movie script. There's an Act 1, Scene 1, Scene 2, Act 2, Scene... You can very easily see it. I think this is from the movie. It's very much more of a photo, and it's got much more of a Mexican theme, as we'll explain. I have this other copy I found. This is much more of a sort of like a textbook for schools. And again, it's got a photo. I don't know where that photo is from. Is it from the movie? But again, it's a Mexican peasant family. Doesn't really show them as pearl divers, but you can see it comes with a CD-ROM, although the CD is not in here. And then this back of the book has exercises for students. It's also, strangely, it says here it's by John Steinbeck, but then it says retold by M.J. Payne. So I think this is not exactly the same script or the same actual body of text. I think this is a bit played around with to help students, I guess, although I don't see why. I think the original is just fine, but the reason I got this is it's got really nice artwork all over. You can see just very nice artwork. I think that's the doctor, if you know the story. I don't want to get it. What I don't want to do in this video is ruin the story or ruin the plot or give away anything. But just nice artwork in this one. But again, I think from all the copies I have, this is still the best one. Heavily used and read by me, annotated by me. And the reason for that, again, as I mentioned in this video, and I've always mentioned, I'm based in the United Arab Emirates, in the heart of the Middle East. And most people, when they think of the United Emirates, they probably think of Dubai, a very luxurious, very ostentatious, glamorous place, very wealthy place. And a lot of that wealth comes from oil. This part of the world is very rich in oil, and subsequently has become very rich. But very few people know about the history of this area of the world before oil. And before oil, this part of the world, and especially what became the United Arab Emirates, its main economic driver was pearls and pearl diving. And so this book really touched me personally, because it talks about pearling and pearl diving especially. It's also a very, I don't know if the word nice is a good description of the story. It's a very sad, very melancholy book, dark book. But so was pearl diving. It was a dark, very melancholy, very dangerous activity. And a lot of men, mostly men who did the pearl diving, died. Pearling is very dangerous. I'll get back into the pearl diving in just a bit. But what I wanted to say again about Steinbeck and why John Steinbeck would write about the pearl, if you read a lot of his books, or if you know a lot about his books, what you'll quickly notice is that John Steinbeck's a very American author. He was born in California. He spent some time in New York, but I think at the end of his life he went back to California. A lot of his stories, the one that I know that I'm reading, this one, The Red Pony, was based in the American West. That's why I'm reading this not just for Steinbeck Summer, but for June on the Range as well, because it's about a boy and his horse in a ranch in Northern California, basically. So a lot of his other books, Tortilla Flats, Cannery Row, and then of course the big famous ones, East of Eden and The Grapes of Wrath, are based in America. John Steinbeck has one of the candidates for the Great American Author or the Great American Novel with his books. Very American themes that he wrote about during his career, his writing career. Except for one, and that's this one, The Pearl. The Pearl wasn't set in America. It's one of his few books that Steinbeck wrote that he set outside America. And although he didn't set it very far from America, it's still a world away from America. And this is probably, we can say, again, I haven't read the other books, so it's a bit tough for me to make this generalization. But this, compared to maybe some of his other books, is much more universal because it was set outside the United States. It was set in Mexico, in I think Baja California, that peninsula that juts out of the west of Mexico. The name of the town escapes me, but I think it exists. I think it's La Paz in Mexico. And it seems that in Mexico in those days, this is probably probably set in the early 20th century, but it could really be set anytime. The people of this part of Mexico were pearl divers. They were poor pearl divers who would dive for pearls and hope to find a pearl of great value and then sell it off and make money and make a living and earn their bread. And so this story follows the family of Kino and his wife Juana and their one child, Coyotito. And they basically, well, I don't want to ruin the story, but it's basically about them, and Kino finds a great pearl, which he hopes to sell and to make his family rich, and to become rich himself. So it's from there it gets into a very dark plot, but that's basically the summary. Of course, there's a town that's involved, neighbors are involved, other characters become involved. A very rich story for such a short book. But again, The Pearl, people read it at school. I don't see it discussed too much on BookTube. Again, people think of it as maybe more of a children's book or a YA, young adult book, but it's a very rich book, and again, it's very close to my heart because of the pearl diving history of the part of the world that I'm from. Now that I've given that background, I'd like to show you some of the books I do have about pearl diving in Arabia and in what is the Arabian Gulf, or the Persian Gulf, but the Arabian side of the Persian Gulf. The wording is very controversial. The Arabs call it the Arabian Gulf, the Persians call it the Persian Gulf, but the coast of what is the United Arab Emirates, eastern parts of Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Bahrain, Kuwait, were all, before the discovery of oil, engaged in pearl diving, and this continued really until oil was discovered in the 20th century. Men would go out on boats, dive into the water, hold their breath, search for oysters, pick up the oysters, get back on the ship, and then start opening the oysters, hoping to find a pearl of great value, which they could sell and make money out of. And the pearl necklaces that were famous in the Great Gatsby 1920s, 1930s era, very fashionable during the flapper sort of Art Deco period. Most of those pearls came from the waters of the Gulf, and again they were very valuable. But the actual pearl divers themselves, who took all the risks to catch the pearls, they made a pittance. They made very little money. They were exploited. The pearls were sold to middlemen. Those middlemen would sell it to merchants in India, and Britain controlled India, and those pearls would find their ways into the crowns and the jewels of the royalty of Europe and the very, very wealthy of the United States in this 1920s, 1930s period. Of course, the pearls, after the discovery of oil, there were two things. In the 1930s, there was a Great Depression, and that lowered the demand for pearls. The Great Depression affected America and Europe. And when you're in a depression and the money's tight, pearls are the last thing. Pearl necklaces and bracelets is the last thing, or earrings is the last thing you would want to purchase. So demand went down. The other thing was in Japan, they had invented a cultured or manufactured pearl, which they could recreate the look of a pearl in a factory without the need to dive and to take all the risks of picking up oysters from the sea floor. And so that also really affected the pearl industry in this part of the world. It collapsed, and the region went back into poverty in the 40s, the 50s. It was only really in the mid-50s, the 60s, that oil was discovered, and then the region came back and became very wealthy as we know it today. Before I keep talking about pearling and pearl diving, I thought I'd show some of the books I have about actual pearl diving. Again, because a lot of this still happened really up to the 1950s, we do have some photos by mostly Western photographers who came to this region, mostly on the back of oil companies, but who took pictures of life in this part of the world at the cusp when the pearling ended and the oil industry started to pick up. The first book I wanted to show is called Seafarers of the Emirates. It's an Arabian album, a collection of mid-20th century photographs. It's a very big book. It's by Ronald Kodrai. Ronald Kodrai. Kodrai was I should have saw his biography. There is a small biography and a photo of him here. There he is, somewhere in Arabia, and very prominently is his camera. He was in this part of the world, and he was a good photographer, a very talented photographer, and he just took pictures of life in this part of the world. And this book is this collection of photographs related mostly to the sea. You can see the famous Arabian pearling dhow on the cover. But again, there's a lot of photos over here. You can see these are fishermen catching fish and unloading their haul from the sea. I just go through and find any pictures that might be of interest. I don't want to show too many because of maybe copywriting issues, but it's got many chapters. Again, here's another photo, black and white, of fishermen with their haul carrying it on a stick. Again, very poor, very backward societies, but this was not too long ago. Within living memory, a lot of people who were around then are probably still alive, maybe old, but still alive. And then this is chapter 3, pearl diving. And there's a photo over there of a famous pearl merchant weighing the pearls to sell it to the world markets. Probably the best photo, and I'll probably with this explain, is the actual pearl diver. There he is. He's holding a rope. He's jumped from the boat. He's holding a rope, and then you can see on his nose there's a nail clip. That's to help him not take in too much water as he goes and dives in to pick up the pearls. Here's a closer photo of the nail clip. You can see it again to help him block out the seawater from his face. Here's another photo. This one, the pearl diver still got the nose clip, but he's covered in a sort of very, very basic cloth, and that's to protect him from stings from stingrays, who would, because they live on the floor of the sea, a diver picking up oysters could probably get stung by one of them, and this was there to protect him. Um, and then you can see that's what they were looking for. Those were oysters. They would be collected in this basket from the seafloor, taken up to the ship, and then opened to find pearls. And there, I think, are examples of small pearls that were discovered. So yeah, that was basically the how the pearl diving worked. So just again to go back to the photo of the pearl diver over there. Um, it sounds simple, but it's really very risky work. You had to jump into the water, hold your breath, and if you read this isn't just photos. There's a lot of explanation about how pearl diving worked and how it was, how the activity was done. You had to hold your breath, and I think in the reading it here, it said you would have to hold your breath from 2 minutes to up to how long it takes you to smoke a cigarette. So get a friend, tell them to light a cigarette, to smoke that cigarette, to finish it to the end, and at the same time you have to hold your breath. And you're not just holding your breath in air, you're underwater swimming, picking up oysters, putting it in that basket that I showed you, and then coming back up for air. So how long does it take to smoke a cigarette? 5 minutes, 6 minutes? Or just try to time yourself for 5 or 6 minutes holding your breath, but also maybe reenacting the act of swimming. So it was very dangerous work. And as I mentioned, because the sea isn't just empty, there's a lot of animals creatures. Of course, the stingray, which could sting, and then of course the biggest fear was the shark. A shark attack. I don't need to tell you what a shark can do. So very dangerous work. And then again, for pittance, if you were lucky, most oysters were empty. If you were lucky, you found a small pearl that was probably ugly or not mature. And if you were lucky and found a pearl, you would have to go and sell it to a middleman, and you got exploited. You probably got a few pennies per pearl, and then those pearls were sold for hundreds of thousands in the markets of London, New York, Paris, and Bombay. So yeah, very, very dangerous. I guess you can say I don't know if he's a best friend. He's my oldest friend. And he was explaining to me that his grandfather was a pearl diver. And his grandfather in his old age went blind. And they claimed that the reason for his blindness was from pearl diving. Just going underwater in very deep levels, without any kind of modern. There's no mask, there's no snorkel, there's no goggles, there's no flippers, you don't have an oxygen mask, none of that. Just very basic. The pictures I showed you, they just jump in pretty much naked to grab the pearls. And I think the effects of going deep in water and doing it countless times caused them to go blind. There's a lot of stories about blindness in this part of the world because of the pearl diving. So yeah, very dangerous work, but this was the result. See there's a bed of pearls. You can see another one picture. There's a group of pearls. These would be sold to the global markets for fashion. So yeah, this is one of the books. Again, a lot of this is because it's about sea. There's a lot of photos on the sea, a lot of photos of pearl diving, fishing. Try to find you some colored ones. Those are some women and men in a smaller rowing boat. And yeah, there are so many photos. I can keep going, but in the interest of time, I think you get the idea of what pearl diving is. Just before I end this video, I just wanted to show you some other books I have. This one is much more of a scholarly look, but again, it's heavy of photos. It has to be. This is by Robert Carter. It's called Sea of Pearls. The subtitle is The History of Pearl Fishing in Bahrain and the Gulf. Bahrain is a neighboring country not too far away from the Emirates, and then the Gulf is the rest of the area. Um, Again, I don't know if it shows, there might be a glare, but these are two pearl divers. You can see a knife, they're cutting the oyster to look for pearls, and you can see the eagerness in their faces to hopefully find something that could make their fortune. So this book is also is much more of a scholarly work. There's a lot of history. You go back to pearl diving. Pearl diving, there's evidence of pearl diving from Mesopotamian times, and it continued really to the 20th century until the discovery of oil. So yeah, this one also has photos, but again, it's more, much more scholarly. But then again, that was the target. That's what you wanted. You wanted many, maybe hundreds of pearls, all of similar size and shape, to make a pearl necklace that could be sold for a lot of money. So there's that one. And this book, or this subject of pearl diving, and then tying it in with John Steinbeck's The Pearl, has also created a lot of books for children, because it's a fascinating activity that doesn't really exist anymore. And if it did, there'd be all kinds of new technology to be used that would allow somebody to to fish for pearl in a much safer environment. So it has a very romantic element to it, although again, very dangerous, back-breaking work. The people of this region are extremely happy that the days of pearling are over, because it was a very exploitative and very dangerous, very risky kind of work. So I just wanted to show you some children's books I have, but I get these children's books because it has good art mostly. This one is by Julia Johnson with illustrations by Patricia Al-Fakhri, and it's called The Pearl Diver. And you can see it's very similar to that photo I showed you of the pearl diver. Very similar photo or picture illustration. It's a drawing, and again, you can see a lot of the artwork is based on the photos that we saw. You can see that's the pearler coming up back to his ship after picking up the pearls. Just a lot of good photos, or not photos, again, illustrations. That's very similar to the cover. Again, nose clip, very prominent. But these children's books, I really like them because it sort of catches what John Steinbeck wrote in The Pearl. You can see, again, that's a family. This one is two children and the mother. I think the father is going off pearling, because the pearler, he would go for maybe 3-4 months out to sea looking for pearls, and he would leave his home under the care of his wife or the mother to take care of the household while he was gone. So it affected the whole society. So yeah, again, these are the pearl traders measuring the find. You can see the Arabic headdress costume they're wearing. This is another book. This one is called Victory Over Abu Daria, The Quest for Pearls in the Arabian Gulf, and it's by Muhammad Ali. I think is a Qatari illustrator and writer. And again, very similar images to what Steinbeck wrote. When I read The Pearl, let me just get the copy. When I read this by Steinbeck, and the tone and the atmosphere of this, although based in Mexico, was very similar to what you're seeing by these illustrators and writers. Just very similar. Greedy merchants with lots of money, and of course exploited pearl divers. There are scenes, this is a nice one, scenes out on sea, dangerous waves, etc. Just really nice artwork. I don't know if it's showing well on the camera, but yeah, again, just looking at these books, actually I think I just have one more. But this one isn't a child. This one is another one, Seafarers of the Gulf. This is by Shirley Kay. I've actually met Shirley Kay. She's written a couple of books about the region, but this one specifically is about the seafarers. Again, just showing again some of the wildlife one encounters on the seas of the Arabian Gulf. Um, how the dhows were built, dhow building. Um, Also goes into the history. Basically, just when you read this, it's a great book. It doesn't matter where you're from, or it's just a great story. But then the imagery that Steinbeck so masterfully describes in this, and then with what I know from the history of pearling and pearl diving in this part of the world where I'm from, it really hit me, and and the stories, and this was written in Mexico, but it could very easily have been written here in the Arabian Gulf. There's very few differences, even the way that they look, the way that the characters are built, the way the environment, everything. Again, after you're seeing these pictures, again, this is an illustration from the Penguin edition. That's the pearl diver going down, very similar to what we saw in the actual photos. If I can find another photo, just any random photo to. Again, we saw some family pictures. Again, we're seeing very similar here. Of course, the costumes are a bit different, but not too different. Just incredible. For me, this is really, really touched the nerve with me. It really affected me. So I'm just wanted to put this video out to explain the pearl. I know it's Steinbeck, Summer of Steinbeck. There's the best chance I could do it. So I thought I would show BookTube a little. Again, if you saw my my BookTube newbie tag, one of the questions is, how is your channel fun and unique? I hope this was fun, but it was definitely unique because I wanted to show how this story really resonates in this part of the world. And again, because Steinbeck wrote he wrote it like a script for a film. He wrote it knowing that it would be produced as a film, and it was produced as a film in Mexican cinema. It was a Mexican film in the 1950s. Don't quote me on that, but it eventually became a film. But the film wasn't very successful. It wasn't. I don't know what the reasons were. There's probably a variety. Steinbeck himself wasn't very impressed with the final product. So with the photos I showed you and the story, I've always had this idea of making this movie into a film based in the Gulf. I think it would make an excellent movie. I think it would be very popular. I don't know if it would be popular in the West, but in this part of the world, with this story written by this master, John Steinbeck, of course, you'd have to get the rights to make it. But if if anyone was to make it a film, very little changes have to be made. Just a few cultural things, the difference between Mexico and Arabia. But the actual pearl diving, the story, the cadence of the whole story, very minimal changes required. And I think because of the romance of this long-lost occupation, I think you can let me know in the comments what you think. I think it would make actually a very, very interesting movie. But that's just me daydreaming on a Sunday, a hot Sunday summer. I'll wrap this up because it's gone longer than I thought. Thank you again for watching this. I hope you enjoyed it. Maybe you learned something new. Enjoy your reading and have a good rest of your weekend. Goodbye, BookTube. Salute.